We are a whole operating system of habits, of repeated patterns, routines. Our brain and our body is consistently looking for this baseline, this homeostasis of repeated patterns in order to stay in a conservation mode and a consistent, non-changing mode. The problem with that is if we do not change / grow, we die. Every single one of us, every single day is wanting relief, wanting to find fulfillment, wanting to find happiness, wanting to resolve a lot of different things. And this is very important for you to understand. Do not disregard this part. This is a key to life. Do you understand this, people? Like, if you get this, your whole freaking life will change. Like, I promise you this. Just believe me, for whatever reason. Hopefully you've come to trust me. And I'm not going to totally blast you with the psychology of that. But basically what happens is we have Hey guys, how are you today? It is Alison from Alison Answers and Lager Counseling Services. I'm coming at you with a solo podcast because I have a few things to say about how to make your life better. And what I want to do is really make it super simple. Every single one of us, every single day is wanting relief, wanting to find fulfillment, wanting to find happiness, wanting to resolve a lot of different things, lack, loss. We're always searching outside of ourselves for some sort of a resolution. So think about your life and think about the way you're living. Think about when you wake up in the morning. Are you waking up in a state of lack? Like, I have to go out and get something. I have to go out and do something. I have to give myself some sort of relief or pleasure or something. I have to fix this problem. And what we end up finding is that we're consistently over and over and over again doing things outside of ourselves in order to fix that internal ache, longing, loss, separation, whatever it is we're experiencing. So I have a bunch of notes that I wrote down for you guys, and I'm going to refer to them in this podcast because I really want to make sure I drive these points home. We look to other people to give us what we think we're missing. We try to fix our partners. We try to fix our friends, our coworkers. We try to fix our circumstances. There's always like a teetering, a tinkering outside to find some solution or answer. And it would be interesting if we stopped. And like I say over and over again, be awake, aware, in the now, without judgment, and just stay head, heart, feet, all in the same spot, and stop trying to fix outward and go inward and begin to know yourself. So each of us is running these scripts. And there literally are scripts. What they are is they're patterns that get played over and over again. You keep finding yourself in the same situation, the same kind of relationship, maybe the same kind of conflict. The issue with this same kind of frustration that you're experiencing, most of us do not recognize. So I want to be super clear on that. We typically, when we have a problem with a person, place, or thing, we simply do not recognize it as a pattern. That's one of the problems. So the baseline here is that if each of us could just stop and admit, there's two different kind of people in the world. That one is people who have need and know it, people who have patterns and know it, and people who have patterns and don't know it. I would never want to be a person who has negative patterns and doesn't know it. All of us has them because our body is designed in a certain way. Our body is designed to conserve energy. And we are a whole operating system of habits, of repeated patterns, routines. So our brain and our body is consistently looking for this baseline, this homeostasis of repeated patterns in order to stay in a conservation mode and a consistent, non-changing mode. The problem with that is if we do not change / grow, we die. So and our body does not mind us being in a pattern that's negative over and over and over again, as long as it's the same, because it looks for like patterns, like begets like. It looks for things that will match what's already inside of us operating. So this is a key to life. Do you understand this, people? Like, if you get this, your whole freaking life will change. Like, I promise you this. Just believe me, for whatever reason. Hopefully you've come to trust me. But if not, experiment. This is how I've done this. I've spent time experimenting in my life. I'm like, oh, okay, this person says this. I'm going to give it a shot. How is it going to hurt? So the way to do it is to just start in more benign situations. If you feel like you just must control your husband or your wife or whatever, your employees, have at it. Keep doing that. But in the meantime, go inward. Ask yourself, when have I felt this frustration before? When have I felt this anger at my teenage kids before? When have I felt this feeling in a different situation? The reason that these emotions or these negative patterns arise and continue to arise is because, as we have all heard over and over again, we have 90 to 100,000 thoughts a day. Nobody really knows the number, of course. And within that context, within those 90,000 thoughts, 91% of those thoughts are the same thoughts we thought yesterday, and they're running as electrical impulses on a loop that just continue. So they repeat. So the people that are out there that feel complete hopelessness or they're unsure of their life, they are repeatedly hearing words in their mind, which are just these electrical impulses that support a previous belief system that continues to be reinforced and searched for by our brain, because our brain is a goal-driven machine. So our brain, if it believes that no one likes you, it will look for evidence of that all the time. So if you're not aware of that internal belief system, which is really just a bunch of neurological connections and a lot of that stuff, habit stacks, basically what you want to do is, if you don't recognize that and at least be willing to say, is that possibly something I could challenge? And do I believe that I have the power to transform my own life by going inward? We are not taught this, which I think is criminal. I don't know why we do not teach children this, because the world would be a nicer place. Basically, understanding the power that we have in order to redirect the life we're living. We tend to think that we have to live the same life we're living forever, and we are just recipients of whatever lands in our lap. Passive recipients. I had no control over that. That's the way they acted. Oh, this is just a circumstance. I don't believe in that. Okay? Because we have power over circumstance. We have power over the things we're seeing in a room, because we cannot take in all that information that is in a room. I learned that in psychology of perception 30 plus years ago, that the amount of data that's around us cannot possibly be absorbed and translated into us at the rate we get, like 40 bits of information when there's billions of bytes of information all around us. Back to what I'm saying. So now, if you think about the patterns that you have, right? You have to know you have them. So for example, if you have a situation where you repeatedly feel frustrated and like, I don't get it. Why are all these people that are in my life? It could be your kids, it could be employees. Like, how come they don't listen to me? That's one. How come they continue to do things in an opposite way, or a way that I don't like, or they are incompetent, or whatever that is? And what I want you to understand is that there's what we will think is that we're a victim of that. Like maybe a little bit of a higher level thinking might be somebody says, oh, I'm attracting these people into my life. And I think that's a really great, astute way of seeing it, and to say, what is it about somebody who doesn't follow through? What is it about somebody who's emotionally unavailable? What is it about somebody who's incompetent? What is it about somebody that I'm repeatedly feeling the same feeling of frustration with? How come that keeps happening in my life? We have to be able to be humble enough and take ownership enough to say to ourselves, oh, possibly I'm the common denominator here. It doesn't mean that those people are being competent. It doesn't mean that there isn't real reasons to possibly let someone go, or to break up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or all these other things. And we get lost in that. We focus on that external person, and then we try to fix that. instead of taking a look inward, and this is something that I have done, and it is absolutely mind blowing. So if you start to notice that in all different areas of your life, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Wait, when have I felt this feeling before? And if you ask yourself that question, you're going to be shocked. So this is kind of like internal family systems, and I'm not going to totally like blast you with that, the psychology of that. But basically what happens is if you can isolate the feeling, whatever it is. So what I will do with a client or with myself, I'll say, when have I felt this feeling before? Let me remove all the extraneous variables, all the external noise, like, oh, he did that, she did that, or they hurt me, or they took advantage, or I'm so mad at so-and-so because they did blank, blank, blank. You will get nowhere with that, and your life will not change. Your life will change in the moment when you do whatever you do with that person. But then I can guarantee to you, if you do not resolve that internal struggle, you will have another pet, incompetent person right in your lap again. So to save yourself years or days or just a lot of stress, it's better to stop, breathe, and go inward and say, okay, let me isolate this feeling. What does this feeling feel like? And then you ask questions. You say, how old does this feel? What is it about this circumstance that feels so upsetting to me? What is it about what this person did or didn't do, or all of that? What is that about for me? And when is the earliest time I have felt this feeling? One of the things that I found is that repeated same feeling. And I will notice it. Like, I'll notice if I'm on a call with a customer service person who I feel like is not trying to actually do the best job that they can. I am not even Alison anymore. I feel frustrated. I'm so mad that a person cannot go out of their way for another person for whatever reason. I just believe that people should do that. And I get revved, and that is something that I've been working on literally for a couple of years, where I'm like, no, pause, what a pleasure. Let me understand that this is here for me to teach me how to grow out of this and understand what the source of my trouble is. So one of the things that I have discovered is that my perspective as a young little girl was, I had a mom who, I don't want to say bad things about her because I'm working on just not doing that either, but I felt that she would not take care of things in a prompt, organized, or in a way that would protect me, would provide for me, would solve an issue. So I always felt like I had to be on top of things. And I felt the frustration of not having a person who was competent to provide me with the things that I needed. So that lack of feeling that there's someone bigger than you to support you, that is a very common issue that people have. And a lot of times we will call that, like, adult children of alcoholics will have that, or adult children. That's adults who have been in dysfunctional families where they feel like they have to be on top of everything. They're like a parentified child. So please understand that there's so many different variables that can come up that we don't realize are running the show. So it will keep us from actually letting go of somebody who is not providing things in the way we need. Or we will learn it won't matter as much anymore too. So if you come in with all the emotion that comes from your history, like, let's say I see a pattern and then I recognize that it's me, that this has something to do with me needing a pet problem, a pet person that is not going to listen to me or be competent or follow through on a task, right? So if I don't resolve that this is really me feeling small, threatened, feeling like, how come nobody cares about me? How come people don't listen to me? And those are very young voices. And what happens is then also, if you then react externally toward that person, you react to them. The thing that happens very, very much so is they will. So let's say you react to them. then the very natural experience is that then you have an additional feeling of guilt. And the problem with that is that then it becomes guilt, then you feel angry. So let's say let me reverse it. It can also be, this person is incompetent, right? Now you feel angry at them. But then there's a part of you that feels guilty. So guilt and anger are very close friends. They're cousins. So I want you to take a moment, just a very brief moment, and I want you to just think of one of two things. One is a pattern that you notice emotionally that just continues to pop up, or a reaction that you have regularly. It could be rage. It could be shutting down. It could be so many different things. It could be, immediately think that you're in trouble, you've done something wrong. So then it could be that. Or you notice that you keep finding yourself in similar situations. So I want you to take a moment and think about patterns in relationships and then patterns in your emotional state. So take a moment, breathe, and do that. So now that you have just taken a moment and you've thought about any patterns you have in your life, remember, we all have them. You can think about any pain point, any discomfort, any mood swing. You'll start to notice that you've had those feelings before. You've had similar situations, but with a different cast of characters and a different set of circumstances. Do not let the circumstances or the different people involved derail you from seeing it as a pattern, because often people will say, oh, well, I haven't been with the same person over and over again. And my response to that is that you don't have to be with the same kind of person. You just have to be with a person who ignites the same feelings or the same reactions that you are experiencing. And then you can recognize it as the same pattern. So we all have scripts. And this is very important for you to understand. Do not disregard this part. We have scripts. What that means is that our scripts are running. Each of us run unconscious scripts. And these scripts are patterns that are built in childhood. So they can be like these belief systems. They can be scripts that when this happens, I automatically do this. When that happens, I automatically do this. This is my reaction when somebody yells. This is my reaction when blah, blah, blah. And you'll start to notice these patterns and their scripts. They're really unique and wonderful patterns within families, within relationships, within working relationships, is that there is always a interaction that becomes pattern-like. So you'll notice with your employees, you'll notice with your coworkers, you'll notice with your spouse, your friend group, that if you say a certain thing, that they will have a response that you already can predict. You already know what it is. And that's because there's this back and forth. It could be a banter. It could be just the way people interact. You pretty much have clear expectations the way people are going to interact with you once you develop a script with them over time. That's why very often in a marriage, scripts are in play, which causes couples to automatically assume things, to keep their partner in a box. So that partner is always going to react in this way. That's their expectation. So they may hide things from them. They may not, they may watch the way they say certain things because of their expectation of the way it's going to go down. So what needs to happen, if you want to change parts of your life, you go inward and you decide if you want to be in that particular script. So, for example, let's say I remember doing this with one of my sons, where he always asked this when he was young, he would always ask for this certain kind of drink. And it would be like, he wanted them all the time. There were these Stonyfield yogurt drinks, right? So he would always want them. And then he would it was almost like he was getting really crazy, addicted to them. He wanted them all the time and he wanted them. So then one time and it became a pattern where it was he would ask for it, he would get it. And then if he didn't get it, he would be upset. I'd give it to him, whatever. This is a very simple example, but I'm using it to demonstrate to you how a script works. So then I decided, this is something I don't like. I don't like that he's kind of dictating this. I know it's not what's best for him. So I need to make a shift in myself, which I just thought he was so cute. And I just didn't like not giving it to him because it was also organic and healthy, blah, blah, blah. So what I ended up doing was I was like, I have to change the script. I knew because I was a therapist. I was like, okay, what I need to do is not give it to him, but with kindness say, oh no, it's not a good time. And then I knew that the reaction from him would be strong. And what we call that is a change back move. Because when you're in a script and one of the people in the script changes the dynamic of the interaction, what happens is the other person unconsciously, it's not like conscious. And this happens with adults. So this is a very micro example. So then if he starts crying and screaming, he had such a strong reaction. It didn't even match the way he ever acted either. Sobbing, crying, like a big, big scene. And I something inside of me was like, oh, wow, this is a change back move. That's cool. And I was able to empathize with him, say, I know how much you love that drink. I see how upset you are. It didn't matter to me. I wasn't moved by it. It wasn't going to change the change or shift that I made in the pattern. What it was going to do is, which showed me that it was working. So then he eventually just, calmed down. And then him and I broke a pattern. So what happens very often in families or in work environments, there can be certain ways that people interact with one another that are make people unhappy. And they're upset about. And what they try to do is change the other person as opposed to going inward and saying, how do I want to live in this relationship? How do I want to live in this work environment? And then you say, well, I'm no longer going to be a part of this system that's here because we all have operating systems that are running and they're like little machines. So you say, the way this is running, I don't like it. So I'm going to make a shift in it. And my expectation is that it's going to be there'll be a little pushback, a change back move with maybe employees or whoever it is. But as long as you're really comfortable with the move and you're not in a reactive state, now you can make a shift and it actually can move the whole system. Think about a baby mobile. It has all the little figures that hang from it. It hangs from a little crib, right? If you think about that, what happens when you move one of those little figures in a baby mobile? Every other figure changes. And this is the way we help in family, struggles it's called family systems. And what we do is we help even one person in a family changing and shifting little interactions that they make can change the entire system. Because when you change the way you interact with someone, they have no choice but to change the way they interact with you. They may do that change back move where it's more intense right then. You're like, wait a minute, this isn't working. This person's even worse than they were before. But no, because when you see that heightened reaction, then you know that the shift in what you're doing is powerful. So just like our bodies want to maintain homeostasis or a baseline, our bodies want us to stay in the same state. It's the same thing for families. It's the same thing for relationships. So this is what I want to encourage you to understand is that if you make a change, if you know there's a certain way you don't want to live in a relationship and you make that change, I want you to understand that you are literally shifting what's happening like biologically in this system between people. So that change again will be a push. Your body and the system, the family will try to do unconscious. It's nothing, none of this is manipulation. So don't use it against your people. They're not trying to force you back into an old pattern. It's a natural reaction in a system that's a family or in a marriage to push it back to the way it was. Even if the way it was in a marriage where people are screaming at one another every day, neither one likes it. But when one person stops reacting and just does not participate, the other person may get stronger, like change back move. But the real thing is that the system itself wants to maintain the pattern. And that's It sounds crazy, but it's to conserve the energy. It's to keep things the same because our bodies believe that if it stays the same, we're safe, which is not true. So let me go on to a couple of other things. I want you to think about the words that you speak, that our words are incredibly powerful. And I want you to think about the spoken word, okay? That most people underestimate the power of words. That every word you speak, every single one of it carries energy and it carries power. It carries power internally when you're thinking those thoughts, but very magnified power when it comes out of your mouth. So you want to be very accountable for the words that you use, and you want to begin to clean them up. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about cursing. I'm talking about the use of language is a power move. The way that you talk to someone, the actual words carry power, and each person has different meanings for different words. So we can both use one word and share different meanings. So I'm always asking people, could you operationally define that term, that word? Like when two people are talking about intimacy, one person is talking about sex, the other person is talking about emotional bonding. So like I will ask, define what that word is. Would you define, because two people can be arguing over something and they're not talking about the same thing. So and very often they want the same thing. So I think of intimacy as into me see. Okay. So back to what we're talking about. There is also with human beings, there is subtext. There is always subtext. So you want to be able to become astute at listening to the subtext underneath the words. It's very often, if you become in tune with a person and you stay in your inner world, your inner self, and you just listen, not just with the words coming out, but what is the message? What are they really trying to say? You'll see somebody really, really upset and like yelling, or they're frustrated. Like I would want to know, like, what do you feel threatened by? Like, how can I help you? Like, I might be thinking that, or like, what is really bothering them? Because usually when someone's angry, they feel threatened. You know, anger is fear's bodyguard. Anger is always a secondary emotion. And it's important to remember that in your relationships. So I'm going to go on to the next podcast next time. We're going to talk about emotional sobriety and how important that is in terms of relationships. And a real quick precursor to that is the idea that when we're emotionally sober, we're not in a reactive state. Whenever you find yourself reacting to people, places, and things, you're automatically in the wrong place, because the first place always to go is inside. And I will give you the example that I have given many, many times before. And it's a silly story of a man who lost his keys. There's a blackout. Okay, hear me, people. There's a blackout. Okay, they don't have any lights in their house. So what they do is they're looking all over for the keys. They can't find their keys. And then they notice outside that there's a street lamp on, and they're like, oh my goodness, there's light out there. So then they go outside into their driveway and they start looking around for their keys. A neighbor comes along and is like, hey buddy, what'd going on? What'd you lose? Oh, I lost my keys. Now the neighbor starts trying to help them find the keys. However, and then the neighbor finally says, hey, where was the last time you saw them? Where was the last time you had them? And the man says, oh, in my living room. I had them. I was holding them on the couch. So then the neighbor says, well, how come we're looking out here? And the man says, because there's light out here. And we are all guilty of that. Think about that. Does that make any sense? He lost his keys inside, yet he goes outside where he can see visually, but we know the keys aren't there. And all of us are doing that. We are constantly looking outside, tinkering around, trying to change people, places, things, trying to control circumstances, trying to make sure things don't happen, to ensure our happiness, to resolve an internal psychological issue, to change a feeling we're having inside by making someone else change. We can have momentary relief, and that's what makes us keep doing it. If I can just control you enough to say you're sorry to me, say you're sorry to me, say you're sorry to me, tell me how much you love me, blah, 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 blah. Now, in the moment, if the person performs like a monkey, yeah, maybe I'll feel better. But until the next time. How about you resolve this incredible need inside to know that you are worthy, to know that you are loved, to know that you matter, even if not one person in the world acknowledges that, to know that if someone doesn't apologize to you, doesn't mean that you have to be in distress. What it can mean is then over time, you make decisions about evaluating what kind of relationship you want to be in. You decide for you. You create the life that you want. Everybody is so dependent on outside love, outside security, outside reassurance. And believe me, I feel those feelings at times too. I love affection. I love attention. I love being, words of affirmation. I love, interacting with other people. So it doesn't mean that we don't have that. It just means that we're not dependent. Our happiness is not dependent on that. Because how on earth can this really be sustainable? People are going to hurt us. We will hurt other people. People will not be there in the way that we need at certain times. So if that is our only source, how do we have a happy life? But if we understand that we have the power through thought, through rewiring the way we see things, through understanding that I have the power within me now. Everything I need is within me now. So this is something that I do. I got it from David Guillaume. I believe in this. I do not leave any circumstance, my house, any from one transition to another. So if I'm going to leave my house, I check. I do a check. I go, Alison, what are you feeling when I'm about to leave? Sometimes we're rushing, trying to get out, whatever. I ask myself, and I'll say, Alison, are you leaving with any lack? And what that means is, am I going out to get something? Am I going out to get approval? Am I going out to get someone to listen to me? Am I going out to make sure an employee does something? Am I going out, am I going out with lack inside, sadness, any kind of difficulty inside, and going out there to try to solve that? And I won't leave until I leave without any lack. And this is a personal practice that I do. So I am not leaving this home. I'm not going out to get anything. If I'm going out to get something, I ask myself, Alison, what is it that you want so much? What's missing? And then I resolve it now. And that could just be 30 seconds, honestly. It's not going to make you late. And honestly, if it made you late, you're better off being late as far as I'm concerned, because entering into any situation in lack is repelling and it doesn't draw the right things to you. If you enter a situation with your intention is to bring, is to give, it is to bond, but not from a state of lack. And allow yourself. So like if you're somebody who's going out on a date, and you haven't had a date in a long time, you really want this person to like you and blah, 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 blah. If you're going out nervous, worried, which is understandable, but then you're saying, the outcome is so important. I think it's very important to let that outcome go before you go, and to go maybe with the intent to learn about, to understand the person, to just be a wise observer and say what can I give in this situation? How can I learn more about this person? And is my life made or not made because of this one interaction? Absolutely not. So even if you have desires, even in business, that you want to have happen, it is very, very powerful to not go in lack. Every table that you're going to negotiate at, whether it's a date or if it's like a business deal, you want to know that the person who can push away from the table and decide, and not feel like they have to do what the other person wants. That person who can push away from the table usually has other options, or they're a person who feels very, very grounded within themselves. And that is the other option. To me, I am the other option. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not looking like out there, that business, that property, that new location, that man, that whatever, that is not my option. All my options are here. I have all my options. I have God Almighty. I have myself. And if I can trust myself, God, we have everything. I have this joke I say, I think it's hysterical. Maybe no one else laughs. I'm the only one I think that ever laughs at this joke, but I think it's so funny. I'm like, without me, I have nothing. But it's true. Without ourselves, you want to develop a relationship with yourself that is like, even if things go wrong, you have a person that has your back and it's you. Like, even if things are not going well or things are like scary or whatever it is, I say to myself, well, you know what? I trust myself to handle it. I know that I'm going to keep myself safe. I know I'm not going to emotionally make the wrong decisions that will harm me. I know that I'm going to be observing my situations and making the best decision that I can. And these are the things we want to start to build in our lives that will create incredible things. So I wish you guys very, very well. I over talked on this podcast a little more than I wanted to. I wanted it to only be 15 minutes, but that's the way it is with me. I hope you have a beautiful day. And I do ask that you would like and subscribe. It is very helpful for me to be able to, just advance on my YouTube channel. Just so you know, I'm top 3% globally on podcasts. I've been doing podcasts for a long time, but you would never know it by the subscribers that I have because people listen all over the world. I look at it, I'm like, they're listening in India. They're listening all over the world to this podcast, which I think is wonderful. But you wouldn't notice it in my subscribers. So it would and also if you could leave comments, I'm so happy to answer your comments. And if there's certain topics you want me to talk about, please ask me. I feel like I will talk about any subject. So if you have a particular question that's important to you, or if you feel like you want to do a therapy session on Alison Answers podcast with me, it would just be with one kind of issue that's important to you. You'd have to sign waivers, all those HIPAA compliant things, because I do ask some deep questions and it's public. But if you're interested in that, you could just send a message to, you could just DM me and, we'll go from there. All right. Follow me, Alison Answers on Instagram, Lager Counseling on Instagram, and YouTube, also, Alison Answers Mission Awake. Love you guys. Have a beautiful, blessed day and choose you. Save your life and stop looking to other people to make your life better.